Okay, let's just jump right in. Have a listen to the sound for a sec. Right. That's that's just a little taste of what we're diving into today. We're talking about the Strymon Big Sky MX, specifically how you can actually, use it to get the sounds you want.
Yeah, I mean, the versatility is kind of the first thing that hits you, isn't it? And that's exactly our focus here, not just a feature list. We want to figure out how you, the listener, can really unlock what this thing can do. We're going to be pulling from the user manual, mostly, looking for those practical tips, stuff you can actually use right away.
Absolutely. So the mission basically is getting a handle on the main controls, the core functions, how you can use them to shape reverb without getting totally bogged down in the super technical stuff.
Yeah.
So where's the best place to start with this pedal to really understand how to use it?
Well, I think the logical place is the reverb types themselves. It's the foundation, really. The Big Sky MX gives you 12 different reverb algorithms to play with.
12. Okay. And selecting them is just using that Type E encoder knob. See the little green light next to the name, yeah? And these aren't just minor tweaks, are they? They sound fundamentally different.
Oh, completely. You've got your, let's say, more realistic ones first, like chamber, hall, room. Those are fantastic if you're just trying to add some natural space, some depth, make it sound like it's in a small room or a big concert hall.
Right, the classic applications. And you have things like plate and spring. Those are iconic sounds.
Definitely. Plate is that really smooth, dense sound. Think classic vocals, drums maybe. And spring, well, that's the bowing, the drip, right? Surf rock, that kind of vibe, instantly recognizable.
Totally. What about the more out there ones? I see magneto, nonlinear.
Yeah, those are for getting more experimental. Magneto is cool. It has this sort of tape echo quality mixed in with the reverb. It evolves. Nonlinear does things reverb doesn't normally do. Gated sounds, reverse stuff, pretty wild textures are possible there.
Okay, interesting. And for just massive ambient washes, cloud and bloom look promising.
Exactly. Cloud is just huge, dreamy, atmospheric. Bloom has this cool swell effect built into the reverb tail, adds a lot of movement.
Yeah.
Oh, and chorale is unique too. It gives you these kind of vocal, choir-like textures, really interesting on pads or keys.
Wow, okay. An impulse. That sounds different.
It is. Impulse Reverb lets you load impulse responses or IRs. These are like sonic snapshots of actual spaces or even other gear. So you can get incredibly realistic room sounds or load up something totally weird. It really opens things up beyond the built-in stuff.
Okay, so that's a lot of different flavors right there, 12 distinct types. But one of the big things about the MX is that you're not stuck with just one at a time, are you?
That's right. That's where the dual reverb capability comes in. And
Hmm.
honestly, this is where things get really creative. You just push the Type EE encoder, that main knob, and you can switch between using one reverb or running two at the same time.
Two reverbs simultaneously.
Yeah.
It's not just having two on, is it? It's how they're connected,
Yeah.
the routing.
Exactly. The routing options are key. They completely change how the two reverbs interact and what the final sound is like.
So what are the options there?
Okay, so first, you can just turn reverb 2 off, which is just your standard single reverb mode, easy
Oh.
enough. Then you've got parallel. Both reverbs get the same dry signal independently. They run side by side.
Parallel.
hmm
Okay, so you could maybe blend like a short room sound with a really long shimmery thing without them mushing together too much.
Precisely. You get the clarity of the short one and the atmosphere of the long one. Adds dimension without washing everything out. Very useful. Then you have series. Reverb 1 feeds into reverb 2, or you can flip it. Reverb 2 feeds into reverb 1.
Ah, okay. So the output of the first one becomes the input for the second one. What does that do sonically?
It creates really complex layered tails. Imagine like a spring reverb dripping into a massive cloud reverb. You get that initial spring character, but then it blossoms into this huge wash. Or vice versa. It can sound completely different depending on the order. Really dense, evolving stuff.
Cool. And the last ones are split modes.
Right. Split 1L2R puts reverb 1 only in the left channel output and reverb 2 only in the right. And split 1R2L just flips that. Reverb 1 on the right, reverb 2 on the left.
Whoa, okay, so you could have like a hall on one side and a plate on the other. That sounds like it could create some serious width.
Huge stereo imaging possibilities, yeah. Makes things sound incredibly wide and immersive. You can really separate the textures in the stereo field.
Man, okay, so you pick your reverb type, maybe even pick two, decide how they connect. Now, how do you actually tweak the sound itself, those main knobs on the front?
Yep, those 6 main knobs are your immediate controls. Your first stop for shaping. You've got decay, obviously. That controls how long the reverb lasts. Short snap or, practically forever.
Standard stuff, pre-delay. That's the gap before the reverb starts.
Exactly. It creates a little bit of space between your dry note and when the reverb actually kicks in. Even tiny adjustments here can make a big difference.
How so? Like, what does changing the pre-delay actually do for the sound?
Well, a short pre-delay can make your initial attack, your pick, sound, or whatever, clearer. It pushes the reverb back just a tiny bit so it doesn't smear the start of the note. Longer pre-delays can make the space feel bigger or even create a kind of rhythmic echo effect between the dry and wet sounds. Really useful for clarity and feel.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Then tone. That's for EQing the reverb.
Pretty much, it shapes the high frequencies of the reverb itself, not your dry signal. So you can make the reverb brighter, airier, or darker and warmer. Helps it sit in the mix better. And MOD adds, well, modulation, movement. Makes the reverb shimmer or swirl a bit, less static, more organic.
Okay. Now, Pair M1 and Pair M2. These are interesting. They change depending on the reverb type you've chosen.
That's right. They give you quick access to parameters that are really important for that specific reverb algorithm. Like for the cloud reverb, I think Pair M1 defaults to controlling the low end, how much bass is in the reverb.
Well, you're not stuck with those defaults, are you? You mentioned you can change what those knobs control.
Yes, and this is super handy. You can customize param1 and param2 to control pretty much any parameter available for that reverb type. So if you find yourself constantly wanting to tweak, say, the diffusion on the cloud reverb, you can assign it to one of those knobs.
And how do you actually do that reassignment?
It's pretty simple, actually. You just push and hold the main value encoder, that big knob in the middle, and while holding it, turn the param knob you want to change. The screen will then let you scroll through all the available parameters for that reverb, and you just select the one you want.
Oh, nice. So you can bring your most used deep parameters right to the front panel. That's really smart for performing.
Exactly. Makes tweaking on the fly much easier, less menu diving.
Okay, then there's the mix knob.
Yeah.
Dry-wet balance, standard affair.
Yeah. Controls the blend between your original unaffected signal and the reverb signal. All the way left is fully dry, all the way right is fully wet. Around 3 o'clock is usually a 50-50 mix. And there's also a global setting called kill dry if you ever need only the wet reverb signal.
When would you use kill dry? Like in an effects loop?
That's the main use case, yeah. If you're running the pedal in a parallel effects loop on an amp or mixer, you often want kill dry engaged so you're not getting the dry signal from both the amp and the pedal. It avoids phase issues and keeps the level consistent. Also good for purely ambient soundscape stuff.
Right. And the value encoder you mentioned,
Yeah.
it does more than just help assign those param knobs, right? It's for navigation.
Totally. It's kind of your main navigation tool. You use it to scroll through presets, banks, navigate through the deeper menus when you push it, and also to adjust parameter values once you're in those menus. It's central to interacting with the pedal.
Got it. And the foot switches, A and B, what's their main job?
Primarily, they turn the presets on and off. So in a bank, you have preset A and preset B, and the corresponding foot switch engages or bypasses it. But they also handle bank up-down navigation if you hold them usually. And importantly, if you're using dual mode, there's a global setting where you can set them up to turn reverb 1 and reverb 2 on and off individually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you could have, say, a basic hall on A and a crazy shimmer on B, and switch just the shimmer on or off while the hall stays running.
Exactly like that. Gives you a lot more performance flexibility within a single preset when using 2 reverbs.
Cool. And the last foot switch is infinite. Sounds fun. What does that do?
It does what it says on the tin. It captures the current reverb tail and sustains it indefinitely or freezes it. You can set it up in the menus to be either momentary, so it only freezes while you hold the switch down, or latching, where you press once to freeze and press again to release. Great for pads, drones, ambient textures.
Okay, awesome. So you dial in these amazing sounds.
Yeah.
How do you save and recall them? Let's talk presets.
Right, the preset system is pretty deep. You've got 150 banks, and each bank holds 2 presets, A and B, so that's 300 preset slots in total. Plenty of space.
And navigating those is using the value knob for banks and the AB switches for the preset within the bank.
That's the basic way, yeah. You can also change how you navigate. There are different home screen views you can choose in the settings. Default shows a mix of info. Stage view uses bigger text, easier to see live. Stage alt might show different parameters. And you can set preset navigation to direct, where turning value just goes to the next preset number, or list mode, which pops up a list of all your presets you can scroll through.
List mode sounds useful if you have a ton of presets and want to jump around.
Yeah, it depends on your workflow. Direct is faster for sequential changes. List is better for finding specific sounds quickly if they're far apart.
And saving. If you nail a sound, how do you lock it in?
Saving's easy. Just press and hold the Type E encoder knob. It'll ask you where you want to save it. You can overwrite the current spot or pick a different bank and slot. And crucially, you can rename the preset too. Give it a useful name instead of just Bang 52A. Much easier to remember later.
Definitely. Always rename your presets. What if you mess things up completely and want to go back to square one? Factory reset.
Yep, there's a factory reset procedure. You hold down the A and infinite foot switches while powering the pedal on. But be warned, this wipes out all your saved presets. So, use with caution. Maybe back up your sounds via MIDI or something first if you can.
Good tip. Okay, so we've covered the front panel controls presets, but you mentioned deeper parameters, the param menu.
Right. For when you really want to fine-tune, you get into the param menu just by pushing the value encoder. Click it in. Inside, the parameters are kind of grouped into 3 types.
Okay, what are the types?
You've got common parameters. These are things available for all reverb types. Basic stuff, usually. Then you have reverb-specific parameters. These are unique to whichever reverb algorithm you currently have selected. This is where the real deep shaping happens for each type. And finally, there are 1+2 parameters. These only show up or are relevant when you're using the dual reverb mode, and they affect both reverbs together.
Okay, let's break that down. Common parameters first. What kind of things are in there?
Things like low-end control, like a low cut for the reverb, output level for the overall preset volume, pan control for placing the reverb in the stereo field, and also settings for the infinite switch behavior, like choosing momentary or latching. Pretty fundamental stuff.
Got it. But the reverb-specific ones, that sounds like where the magic lies for each algorithm. Can you give some examples?
Yeah, absolutely. This is where you tailor the character. For instance, in the room reverb, you can adjust the room size and also a voice parameter that changes the reflection characteristics. For hall, you've got controls for the swell effect, the rise time, the type of swell. Great for those blooming ambient pads.
So each of the 12 types has its own unique set of deeper controls.
Exactly. Like chamber has a color parameter. Spring lets you tweak the dwell and even the apparent number of springs. Impulse has attack and stretch controls for the loaded IR. Cloud has diffusion, which affects how dense the reverb wash sounds. Shimmer lets you control the amount and feedback of the pitch-shifted voice. Bloom has length and harmonics for its effect.
Wow. Keep going.
Magneto has controls for the virtual tape heads and diffusion. Nonlinear lets you change the reverb shape and even add a rhythmic chop effect. Chorale has parameters like vowel and resonance to shape those vocal-like tones. Seriously, spending time exploring these specific parameters for your favorite reverb types is, well, it's essential to really mastering the pedal.
It really sounds like it. You can go way beyond the basic sound of each type. It's almost like 12 mini synths hidden inside.
That's not a bad way to think about it, yeah. The depth is significant. Those small tweaks in the param menu make a huge difference.
Okay, and the third type was 1+2 parameters for dual mode.
Right. These control things that relate to using 2 reverbs together, stuff like infinite latch behavior when both are active. There's a global boost level for the preset. A persist setting this lets the reverb tails fade out naturally even after you bypass the pedal, which is really nice. You select the dual routing mode itself here too. And there's even a useful copy from function, letting you quickly copy all the settings from reverb 1 over to reverb 2 or vice versa. Good starting point for dual sounds.
That copy function sounds handy for building layered sounds without starting from scratch on the second reverb.
Exactly. Saves a bit of time and helps you get related sounds working together quickly. These 1+2 parameters really help manage the complexity when you're running 2 engines.
Okay, this is incredibly powerful just on its own. But there's more connectivity, right? The EXP jack on the back.
Yep, the expression pedal input. It's actually multifunction. You can plug in a standard TRS expression pedal, which is probably the most common use. Or you can connect Strymon's multi-switch or multi-switch plus for extra foot switch control, maybe for tapping tempo or accessing more presets. Or you can use it for TRS MIDI input-output.
Let's stick with the expression pedal for a moment. How do you set that up to control something, like, say, the decay time?
It's done through the EXP setup menu, which is inside the Polarment menu structure. You basically tell the pedal which knob or parameter you want the expression pedal to control. Then you set the range. You move your pedal to the heel down position and turn the knob on the Big Sky to set the minimum value. Then move the pedal to toe down, turn the knob again to set the maximum value, save that, and you're good to go.
So you can map it, to control almost anything
Yeah.
and set the sweep range precisely. That's fantastic for live performance.
Absolutely. Controlling mix or decay or mod depth with your foot opens up a lot of expressive possibilities. Hands-free swells, dynamic changes, really useful.
And MIDI. You mentioned MIDI via TRS, but it also has standard MIDI DIN ports, right? What can you do with MIDI?
Yeah, it has the standard 5-pin MIDI in and out ports, plus MIDI over USB and that TRS option. You can do the basics, like using MIDI program change messages to recall any of the 300 presets remotely from a controller or sequencer. But you can also use MIDI continuous controller messages, CCs, to control pretty much every single parameter on the pedal in real time.
Wait, so you could automate, say, the tone knob or the magneto heads parameter from your DOD-DA or a MIDI controller?
Exactly. Full automation is possible. You can sequence complex reverb changes or modulations that would be impossible to do just by turning knobs or using an expression pedal. It integrates really well into bigger MIDI-controlled rigs for both studio and live use. The manual has a full list of all the MIDI CC numbers for each parameter.
That adds a whole other layer of control. Okay, we've covered a massive amount of ground here. If we had to boil it down, what's the key takeaway for someone wanting to really use the Big Sky MX, not just admire it?
I think the main thing is, don't just stick to the surface. Yes, the basic reverb types sound great right out of the box, but the real power, the real uniqueness of your sound comes from exploring the dual modes, experimenting with the routing options, and really digging into those reverb-specific parameters in the param menu. And definitely try assigning your favorite deep parameters to the param 1 and 2 knobs for easier access.
Right. It's about combining things, trying a plate into a hall or splitting a spring in a cloud,
Well,
and then tweaking those specific parameters, the size, the diffusion, the mod, the pre-delay, to make it truly yours. Don't be afraid to experiment.
Exactly. Get in there. Try the different routings. Hear what series sounds like versus parallel. Spend time with just one algorithm and see what happens when you push its specific parameters to extremes. Listen to how pre-delay changes the feel, how tone changes the character. Put an expression pedal on it and see what happens. That hands-on exploration is key.
So maybe the final thought for everyone listening is this. Think beyond just adding reverb as an effect. How can you use these tools, the dual engines, the routing, the deep parameters, the MIDI control, to make reverb an integral part of your instrument's voice, to fundamentally shape the sonic character and the emotional impact of your music? How can you make the space itself part of the composition?